Hello and welcome to our 12th chapter of Kendall Red. And we are talking about a beautiful theme called the career growth, reinventing yourself. We always think of the 21st century as the one that will make us redundant. Let's say a taxi driver, because of the Uber and the Olas, has no more role. But perhaps if they reinvent themselves, have you seen a cab driver which has newspapers and bottled water and services that are just outstanding? Or there's an auto rickshaw that put green plant, or someone who's an environmental or a social cause crusader. Suddenly they are in the news. People want to book their cab. You could reinvent yourself in the same way. The SDG goals we are touching are very close. Two goals, 8 and 9, decent work and economic growth, and the three I's, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. What it means to reinvent yourself. It could be learning to learn a new subject. It could be public speaking. It could be writing skills. It could be cooking. It could be outdoor. It could be traveling. It could be business negotiations or understanding a new terminology. There's always time and effort to learn. Remember, the owner of KFC became rich at 65. What's your excuse? The point is, you must commit to self improvement. Building character is a lifelong learning, LLL, right? It is not a day one habit. It is the same way with foods, exercise, spirituality. It is a continuous effort. It is said, living life is like climbing a cascading river. When you stop, you don't go up, but you fall down. That is what a continuous effort to improve yourself day in and day out is what is required to reinvent yourself. Think of a small mountain and look at the bottom of the mountain is first being self-aware. One of the most beautiful thing I learned is about the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy. This is very similar. There's seven key role to it. First, you need to be aware your strengths and your weaknesses. There is a chapter we did on only on finding your strengths. Then you explore. You find out, okay, if my strength is, just being talkative, what are my avenues to go and talk to people? Then do self discovery. Maybe you find a forum, a book club, maybe a business networking meet. You go and talk to them. Self understanding. I love to talk, but do people love to listen to me? Self love. Do I talk sense? Oh, this is nice. How much should I talk? Self transformation. You reform, you reinvent, you talk what is the need of the hour. Do not go to a cooking show and talk about crime thrillers. No, that will not work. And self mastery. Understand how much is relevant. And when you start working on one thing at a time, you become better over time. Skills is built as a repository of all these small tools, one step at a time. All right, enough of conversation. Let's look at one of the activities called Big Books. I've compiled a list of some wonderful books, just four in each row, and eight books, which are some of the best selling self help books. One way to learn is to read self help books. For example, one conspicuous missing from this list is Robin Williams. The book that I read is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It perhaps changed a lot of my perspective. There's another book called Enjoy Your Life. I read and reread these books and it made me rethink, what am I doing? And then I loved the idea. So imagine if I were to even give you this challenge of looking at this book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. What do you think of it? What kind of monk is he? Is he a Buddhist monk? A Zen-like orange robe? Is he living somewhere in a monastery in Tibet? Is he actually driving a Ferrari? Oh, he must have had a fantastic job in Seattle or San Francisco. He was flying down here and there. And then you realize what the book meant. The book meant we are chasing something which is completely an illusion. What about chasing happiness? Robin Sharma, Robin Williams, another great actor, and his movie, Goodwill Hunting, is a brilliant one on self retrospection. But Robin Sharma also wrote Who Will Cry When You Die. Some of his books are profound. So let's look at this and talk to them and say, okay, what does each of the name mean to you? Just think of the name of a book and what do they mean? For example, Big Magic, creative living beyond fear. What does this title mean to you? Oh my goodness, I could do magic in my life. I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? Most of us are afraid of public speaking. We are second on list is death. So how does this title apply to you? What can you do which actually means, oh, you were given an opportunity to speak at a school function and you fumbled it up? Now Think if you were to rewrite the title of the book, what it would be? It is a self reflective, very, very deep activity. We can do that for so many of it. The universe has your back. Oh, isn't it amazing? Just the name itself of the book, self love. What do you think? Sometimes we are so harsh on ourselves. The advice we give to ourselves is never the advice we'll give to a friend who is in need. Imagine somebody comes and says, I failed my examination. Will you say, go jump from a bridge? Never. You'll say, it's okay, it's just an exam. But when you have poor marks, when you fail, either you don't care, that attitude, or you go down in a depression downhill mode. I love this. You are a badass. Oh my goodness. What do you mean about this? What does reflects about you? Jay Shetty has some great podcast and his small videos on Instagram. It says, think like a monk. How does a monk think? I love a quote from MS Dhoni, one of the greatest captain India had. You can fight over it. Who else could it be? But he said, how did you chase so many thrillers, amazing edge of the seat nail biters? And he said, by focusing on my breathing. What? Not your cricketing technique, not strategy. He said, just if I calm myself down. Moment I learned it, let's say you're standing in an immigration line or you're going for a job interview, there is a little anxious moment. What will they ask you? I remember MS Dhoni and I say, okay, I have to focus on my breathing. It has helped. Think like a monk. Monk goes in a Zen like state. Could it be your perspective? Then Louis Hay, she's a very, very powerful trainer, and the book is called You Can Heal Your Life. Finally, you can say that they are scars. Isn't it Sabrina Carpenter who says scars are beautiful? I don't know the author or the singer, but what I do know is yes, scars are what you carry. When people used to go to battlefield, those scars are better than any of the awards, the medal they get. This is the kind of scars. If you had a poor incident, a bad relationship, a difficult, subject, carry them and say, then I'll overcome it. Tell your stories. Every TED Talk is made up of a story of someone fighting the defeat that they had. Self care for the real world. And finally, it's Dr. Steve Pinker called the mind management, the chimp paradox. There's a monkey in your mind who keeps distracting you. As you're listening to this, you're distracted. Oh, it's almost, and I always try to keep it under 10 minutes. This might be 12, but I'm asking you to look at the book, reflect on it. In fact, as a teacher, you might bring some of the self help book to a class and ask the student to decode them. And hopefully, by the end of this exercise, you can ask a student to write one self help book cover based on what they think. They are young people, but if teachers and parents are listening, why don't you do this exercise? These are great, great lessons. And I'll end with a quote on this particular thing, which says, too many selfies, too little knowledge of the self. I'll repeat, too many selfies, too little knowledge of the self. The best journeys are the journeys within. Go back and look into yourself. 12.2 talks about old from new. Good ideas don't fall from trees like Newton's apple. They are a collection of old ideas and experiment. Like your mobile phone. Mobile phone did not just pop out. It was always there. First we had the wireless phone, the antenna, and somebody said, hold on, how can I make it a mobile device? That's exactly the word. And lo and behold, you got your Samsungs and Apples and Nokias and today the Redmis and Vivos. So many inventions have come this way. Well, like cameras, cars, light bulb, elevators. So why don't you look at some of the things, even a flag or a new piece of a garment? There are fashion senses that are coming out of it. Or perhaps the earpods, maybe it's a Sony Walkman, and find out two products they are made of. It will be fun to find five more objects that are made of two products and list them. It's a great creative tool. And the tagline for our theme itself is critical thinking. So why don't we mix the two and find out what good tools we can look at? Finally, we're looking at Digi Career. Reinventing yourself. Nobody can say that you can stay away from technology. A lot of times we are told the technology stuff, AI has come, chat GPT will ruin. No, they are a tool, they can be an ally. In fact, I'll tell you a story, and if you're listening, there was this child who was diagnosed with an incurable disease, a disease the child's parents were the wits end. They didn't know what to do. They went to around 27 doctors. None of them, they diagnosed from cancer to tumor to Asperger syndrome. They do not know until finally, frustrated, few years down the line, spending enough amount of money, the mother compiled all the reports that the child has, all the diagnosis, prognosis, all the scans into GPT. into ChatGPT, literally into AI. And AI compiled a report and diagnosed what none of the doctors, and this I'm talking about the best medical practice in the United States, could not detect. He had something called tethered cord syndrome. AI is a tool. AI is a wonderful tool if reached well, if taught well. 20 years back, somebody was fighting the internet. Another 20 years back, people said television will ruin our culture. 20 more years back, people said radio is evil. 100 years back, when Gutenberg came with a printing press, people said, oh, books are evil. No, it is the way we perspective, our goals are very important. A goal properly set, Zig Ziglar says, is halfway reach. Digital goals, IoT, Internet of Things, robotics, AI, anything that you can learn about, machine learning, all of this are popular tools and you need to learn. So if you're looking for reinventing yourself, embrace it. And one of the things we are looking at is digital marketing is a career. McKinsey says it's the most preferred career. It's like writing blogs. Today, people want human blogs, email marketing, meta advertisement, more creative stuff, more attention speaking, and that is what you need to do. So let's say you are a digital marketer and a new shoe is being launched, and they actually are canvases being launched that are competing with Nike, Adidas, and Puma, and they are giving these industry leaders a run for their money. So you are, going to make a sales pitch to the CEO of this company. Find out what can you do. Find a new name, a brand, a logo. Use digital marketing tools, SEOs, SEMs, who your customers and affiliate marketing is, what kind of branding, what AI tool will you use. In fact, allow your students to go online and develop a brand ambassador for that. And also, as a side note, why don't you do a study on two or three such shoe brand? I can give you one. The Toms are a shoe brand that the owner went to one of the South American countries and he found it absolutely amazing. It is one of the best selling shoe brands. Somebody is wearing a Toms, you know that he has arrived. He knows what his social causes are. There is a canvas shoe brand that's working huge in India. Find something about it. It's a brand that most students would know than most of us adults, but it's a great tool and learning. So go ahead, enjoy, and put those shoes on and reinvent yourself. Good luck.